Good day, everybody. My name is Joe Payne. I am the CEO of Code 42. I am here today as a cybersecurity expert to talk to you about cybersecurity and trust, and more specifically, insider risk. Now, before I start giving you lots of facts and figures about a problem that's pervasive in society today, I want to tell you a couple stories. This first story is about an employee who left a company. I'm going to call that kind of employee a departing employee. And he was a software engineer. And when he left, the security team found that he had taken a bunch of source code with him by putting it up in his Dropbox account. When we asked the business team what that source code was worth, it was worth $5 million. True story from 3 months ago. Let me tell you another one. This one happened at my company. New salesperson joined the company, connected her iPhone to her new company computer at Code 42, and her Apple account immediately started uploading to her new computer all of her materials from her last job. Lots of confidential information. That one happened about 6 months ago. Another scary thing. Both of those stories represent what we call insider risk. And insider risk is a data protection problem that involves your employees and your contractors. And listen, you're thinking, Joe, I've heard of insider threat, but I haven't heard of insider risk. And that's because insider threat focuses on the malicious individual user, whereas insider risk involves all of our employees and all of our users and how they're moving data around today. I'm going to spend some time this morning talking about this problem and giving you lots of facts and figures on why you need to pay attention to it. So you're also thinking, look, this is a problem that's been around for 100 years. Insiders have always been an issue. So why is this a big problem today? Well, a lot has changed. And there are three main drivers to the increased focus on insiders. The first one is digital transformation. Digital transformation is fundamentally changing how we all work together today. Organizations, about 90% of organizations today across all industries are pursuing digital strategies where they are digitizing not only all of their data, but all of their business processes. That means all your customer lists, all your payroll data, all of your plans, all of your intellectual drawings, if you're an architect, all of these things have been digitized. And the other thing is, as we digitize all this information, all of our chief information officers have been putting in brand new technology that helps make us a lot more productive in our jobs. So many of you will be familiar with this technology. We're using OneDrive or we're using G Drive to share data across the organization, or we're using Slack or Teams. All of these help us collaborate with all of our employees. They help us share information. Unfortunately, these same technologies also allow us to share data outside the organization in a really, really simple process. Driver number two, knowledge workers today can work from anywhere. Now, all of you are thinking, yeah, sure, Joe, I see that you're at home. I am. Like most of people in the technology industry today, we've been working at home for the last 2 years. But even pre-COVID, knowledge workers spent 23% of their working week outside the office. And today, less than 1 in 4 workers are willing to return to the office in a full-time capacity. So what does that mean? Well, when workers are outside the office, IT no longer controls the tools or the networks or the applications where they work and where they're getting work done. That means that all of the things that we used to do to monitor how people move data around are useless when employees are working from their home network, or they're working from Starbucks, or they're working from Hawaii, or they're working from Spain. Wherever they're working from today, it's very hard for us to keep our eyes on all that data. In fact, workers tell us that 37% of them use unauthorized apps, and 26% of them use them to share data every single week. So they use Gmail instead of their corporate mail, just to because it's easier or faster, or they use their Dropbox account to share information. So these are all techniques that put our data at risk. The third driver of change is that people are changing jobs faster than ever. And in fact, this is the biggest driver of insider risk. When is your data most vulnerable? It's when people change jobs. That's when they take it in order to use it maliciously. It's one thing to Gmail your colleagues a document because you couldn't get in the corporate mail system. It's another thing to Gmail the document to yourself so that you have it for your next job. And we're seeing lots of that. So when we talk about people changing jobs, let's look at some of the data. So the average employee tenure is decreasing dramatically. In fact, generations Y and Z, which make up almost 60% of the workforce, their average tenure is less than 3 years. We are seeing employees start with companies, never go into an office, and quit and leave for other companies. And in those situations, IT organizations and security organizations and business organizations don't have any idea where their data goes. In fact, the Great Resignation in the United States, we call it the Great Resignation, but it's happening all over the world. And we saw in the US alone, 4.5 million Americans leaving their jobs in the month of November alone. So this is an enormous problem, and it's happening around the world. In fact, when we interviewed Gen Z and millennials, most of them, a large majority of them, plan to change jobs in the next 12 months. And you might be thinking, well, why is that a problem? Because departing employees tell us that 63% of them tell us that they took data from their last job and are using that in their current job. Our data indicates that it's closer to 90% of employees are taking data from jobs to jobs. So what does that result in? That results in the perfect storm for insider threats. Essentially, we're seeing today that 2/3 of all breaches are caused by internal actors, not by external actors. We worry a lot about nation states and malware and ransomware and hackers, and we should worry about those things. But they're only causing about 1/3 of the breaches. Most of the breaches are coming from our own teammates. And today, only about 10% of security budgets are focused on this area. So let's talk about why this problem is so different and why security teams have been ill-equipped to handle this problem to date. The first is the nature of the problem is very different. In malware or in hacking, we have a bad actor involved. But with insider risk, it's one of our colleagues. It's someone that could be down the hall. It could be an executive on our team. With malware, we have a fast-moving, propagating piece of software. So an entire company can be hit with ransomware that's spread across the entire company in minutes or hours. But with insider risk, you don't have a situation where if one person takes data, all of a sudden everybody else wants to. That's not the way it works. So you have a little bit more time in how you handle this problem. With malware, your response is immediate. Isolate, disconnect, quarantine the person or the materials. But in insider risk, you need to investigate or understand because sometimes, like the example I used at the very beginning, with the person downloading information from their Apple ID when they didn't even know they were doing it, you need to investigate and understand and ask the employee what's happening. With malware risk, again, with an investigation, you're going to interrogate somebody if you're able to find someone to interrogate. But with insider risk, you don't want to interrogate your colleagues or your executives. You want to question them. Typically, security can handle the response with malware. But with insider risk, you need HR and you might even need legal involved. With a hacker, it is never accidental. But with insider risk, it's often accidental. If you try to educate The bad guys or the bad people that are trying to hack your system, that's useless. That's a waste of time. But actually, in this problem, with insider risk, educating your employees on what they're allowed to take and what they're not allowed to take is a critical component of an insider risk management program. In fact, when we talk to software engineers, most of them believe because they wrote the software that they should be able to take it with them. So sometimes a little bit of education up front can solve a lot of the problems on the back end. With malware risk, a security team can get fired for not reacting fast enough. Whereas with insider risk, if you overreact and accuse someone of doing something when maybe they were just trying to share information with a colleague and using unauthorized methods, that can get you fired. There are no hesitation about what the legal issues are with external. You don't worry about the privacy of the hacker, but most security teams have no idea how to handle the privacy issues and the balance between employee privacy and also protecting company data. Most security people will tell you that they have years of experience and expertise in this problem. And when we talk to them and really walk through these kind of issues, it's clear that very few people have that level of expertise. So very, very different approach needs to be taken. So with insider risk management programs, as you think about this for your organization, you need to think about a very different approach in a modern collaborative world. In a world where we want our employees to actively share data with each other, we don't want to lock down their ability to collaborate. We want to free them to collaborate. But in order to do that, we need to have a robust program that protects our company data also. What does that robust program entail? Transparency, training, and technology, the 3 T's of an insider risk management program. Let me just walk through them quickly. The first is transparency. Tell your employees that you are watching the store. Tell them that they're not allowed to share data to untrusted locations and that you will course correct them when they do. This is such a different approach. Most security companies do not want their adversaries to know their methods and practices. But in insider risk, you absolutely do, because that will reduce the noise substantially. T number 2 is training. And that means lots and lots of training and videos. As I mentioned earlier, software engineers don't know they're not allowed to take their source code. Salespeople sometimes think it's okay to take their customer list. Sometimes people think they're helping the company by bringing data from their last company in. So we want to train all of those people that that's not the expected behavior at our organizations. So having the right training tools for insider risk is critical. And having specific rules for specific roles is also critical. The last T is technology. And as somebody that runs a technology company, I know you would expect that to be the first T, but it truly is the last T. Once you've told them what they can do and that you're watching the store, once you've trained them on what they can do, now you need to put in technology that allows people to freely collaborate and work together and doesn't block their collaboration, but also verifies that they're following the rules and they're not putting data into untrusted location. The technology will allow us to find those needles in the haystack, find the Sean Cassidys of the world, as you see on this slide, who are actually creating lots of data risk and moving lots of data outside the organization. So with technology, we have this view that we are going to trust but verify. If you address the problem of insider risk appropriately, you allow your teams to collaborate freely. You unlock their ability to share and work together, knowing that you have protected your data carefully. My name is Joe Payne. I am the CEO of Code 42. All that we do at Code 42 is help organizations build insider risk programs. We help them with all 3 T's of an insider risk program. If we can help you, look us up at code42.com. I hope this has been helpful as a brief primer on the growing problem of insider risk, and I want to thank you for spending time with me today to discuss it. Have a great day.